Hey folks, welcome back once again to MidwestHockey.info. It's been a little bit longer than I hoped for between broadcasts here, but this is, I guess, a bit of a playoff preview. In some cases, a review in my pro report for April 10th, 2017. The NHL and East Coast Hockey League and SPHL, all three wrapped up their regular seasons this past weekend. The American Hockey League has one more week to go, and the Federal Hockey League actually completed its first round of playoffs and is heading into the championship. So I'm going to try to get through this as fast as I can. Just a little bit of a touch-up on each one. I'll go into more depth hopefully tomorrow for some leagues, and obviously I have a junior report to follow, as they also have a couple leagues heading into the postseason. In the NHL, most people are already aware of how things sorted out there. As far as Midwest-based teams, the Chicago Blackhawks had long since wrapped up, I believe, the West Conference title. And in their case, it's hopeful that that's the reason that they kind of limped a little bit to the finish line. I think they lost all four starts in April, so that's just not good. But usually that stuff gets shrugged off pretty fast once the postseason starts. This past weekend, I think they lost at Anaheim and LA. They lost 4-0 shutout at Anaheim. 3-2 overtime loss to LA. They also lost to Colorado earlier this month, and they lost to a bit of a desperate Boston team. So that could be part of the reason for that one, maybe. Anaheim also was the game was important to them, as they were in need of points to clinch the Pacific Division title. They were in a battle with Edmonton. So in those cases, maybe they're playing a team that the game just simply meant more to them as far as points go. You want to stay hot, I suppose, going into the postseason. I'm not overly worried at all about Chicago. Though heading into the postseason, they will play the Nashville Predators. Starting Thursday night, they have home ice advantage all the way to the conference championship if they are able to advance that far. Now, I'm going to do some playoff previews later, but if you're looking at some injuries that they need to deal with, Artem Anisimov was supposed to start skating today, but he has a lower body injury and is likely going to be out for the first round, I would expect. Duncan Keith and Chalmerson, both defensemen, were held out in weekend games. They should be back in time for the start of the postseason. It sounds like that might be more of a rest than an injury. So those two are expected back. So Artem Anisimov will be the key absentee for the first round of the playoffs. He's been gone for a little while, and he's starting to skate today, apparently. But I can't see him making it back for the first round. Minnesota Wild, last time I spoke about them, they were in a bit of a funk. They were 1-9, but they really kind of had an impressive finish to the season, actually. They were 5-1 through their last 6. Now, granted, their last 4 games were against non-playoff teams, so maybe a little bit of an easier schedule to finish. But they also had a 3-0 shutout win against Nashville, so that was an important game for the Preds, and they beat them. They did beat Colorado a couple times down the stretch. Won against Carolina, and then wrapped up the season with a 3-1 win in Arizona. But the Wild, I think, are looking pretty solid at this point. Whatever troubles it was that they had that ultimately caused them to not take the conference title that they, at one time it looked like they were right in the hunt against Chicago. They ended up falling quite far out of it, but actually ended up the season just 3 points behind the Hawks. So not a bad finish at all for the Wild. Jared Spurgeon is out. He was injured, was expected back on the weekend, but did not play. So I'm wondering if they just maybe held him back to wait for the postseason, or if maybe that injury might be a little bit worse than expected. Let's take a look at St. Louis, who will be the first round opponent for the Wild. They also got hot near the end of the season. They won 4 of their last 5, I think. 4 of their last 5, including their last 3. They won on a southern trip, I guess you'd call it. They went to Florida, won 6-3 there, won 5-4 in overtime at Carolina on Saturday, and then wrapped up the season in Colorado with a 3-2 win on Sunday. They also had an earlier win this month versus Nashville. A key win there is that at the point, I believe Nashville still was in the running for third place. St. Louis captured that position. They did lose their next game to Winnipeg 5-2, but all things considered, a nice start for the Blues, who will begin their postseason on Wednesday in Minnesota. So that should be a great first round series. Obviously, St. Louis with an awesome run last year, not quite as high up going into this season's playoffs. I think they won the division last year. This year they're going to start on the road. But, not a team to count out, that's for sure. It should be an awesome first round between the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. Robbie Fabry is out. He's done for the year. He has an ACL injury that's going to keep him on the sidelines. That's no surprise. Paul Stastny's also out. He was listed as week to week. The last thing I could find, and that was on March 23rd, so that's actually a couple weeks ago. I would list him if it was me. I don't know anything else about it. I'm going to say he's questionable. I don't believe he would start the playoffs, but who knows? He could be back in this first round, but that would obviously be nice for the Blues to get Paul Stastny back in the lineup. And I'm just guessing at that, actually. But I do, I would expect that he must be getting closer. They listed him as week to week. And that was 2 weeks ago. So time will tell, I guess. Columbus Blue Jackets are the other Midwest-based team to make the postseason. They stopped a 6-game skid. Not a great way to wrap up the season, but they did manage to wrap up the campaign on Sunday in Toronto, denying the Leafs a chance at third place. So that was actually a tough game. The Columbus Blue Jackets, with Eunice Korpisalo between the pipes, picked up a 3-2 win. They will start really what to me is going to be the best series of the opening round in the Metro division. They did finish third in the Metro, so they will start on the road, but they'll be playing the Pittsburgh Penguins. The same Penguins, they took 6 games 3 seasons ago, prompting all kinds of high hopes for this team. They ended up missing the playoffs for the next 2 seasons. But I do think that this is going to be a great first round series. We'll be talking more about it later, but I do think this series goes at least 6 or 7. Excuse me. That wraps up the teams that made the postseason. The Detroit Red Wings are the other Midwest-based team. They finished the season 33, 36, and 13. A nice 4-1 win against New Jersey yesterday to wrap up the Joe Louis era with a victory. So that was actually kind of nice. They got the 4-1 win. They finish 25th overall in the NHL. They'll have the 6th best chance in the NHL lottery, which takes place on April 29th. It's late this year. They have a 7.6% chance of landing the first overall draft pick. How nice would that be for the Red Wings if they could pick that up? Quickly now on to the American Hockey League. They're actually still going. So I'll get more about them later. But the story I'm really interested in, especially, all the Midwest-based teams play in the same division, the Central. And the key race here is for that 4th and final playoff spot. Cleveland Monsters are currently 5th. Couldn't have done more to get that playoff position down the stretch here. They picked up 3 wins on the weekend against the Milwaukee Admirals on Friday, 1-0. And then again at Rapids at Grand Rapids on Saturday, a 4-0 shutout, and then on Sunday they wrapped it up with an exciting 4-3 win over Grand Rapids in shootout. I'm going to go through this quickly as I see I only have 3 minutes left on my timer here. Friday night, the 1-0 win. Zach Dalpe scored the lone goal for the Monsters. Anton Forsberg with 28 saves to get the shutout. The following night, another shutout. This time 4-0 at Grand Rapids. Sonny Milano scored a pair. Marcus Hannikainen and Joe Pendenza had the other goals. Brad Thiessen between the pipes. He's been called up, with Corpusalo moving up to Columbus. Brad Thiessen's been playing a regular stint in Cleveland. He had 31 saves to nail down that shutout. Then Sunday in Grand Rapids, they tied 3-3. Grand Rapids took a 2-0 lead with goals from Colin Campbell and Dominic Turgeon. Cleveland stormed back with the next three. Alex Broadhurst, Vitaly Abramov, and Jordan Maleta had the goals. And then Matthew Ford tied it up later for Grand Rapids. They ended up going to a shootout. Anton Forsberg against Jared Coreau. Forsberg stopped 33 of 36. Coreau 28 of 31. In the shootout, Dalpe and Hannikainen both scored, and that was all they needed, as Forsberg stopped shots by Evgeny Svechnikov, who has made his pro debut with Grand Rapids in just the last few days here, and Matthew Ford. Now, they did gain some ground, but not much, as Charlotte also picked up wins. They beat Texas 9-3 on Saturday, and then 3-1 on Sunday, both games in Charlotte. So they're going to take this one to the last weekend. I'll have a little bit more on who they're playing, and an ECHL, SPHL report on my next report, as this one's going to have to end here. Thanks for watching, and I'll have more on this AHL coming up.